A battle between New York and New York. How Governor Andrew Cuomo and Mayor Bill de Blasio have taken their feud to a whole new level. Then Berta Carrick is here. The former NYPD commissioner will talk about terror fears heading into the 4th of July weekend and his new book about his time in prison and his falling out with Rudy Giuliani. Also, the Cold War comes to the Hudson Valley. The true story of a local guy who caught a Russian spy, and it all happened in our neck of the woods. The book is out, the movie on its way, and the authors are here in our studio. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And we begin this evening with de Blasio versus Cuomo, the mayor versus the governor, Democrat versus Democrat. Mayor de Blasio, as you probably heard this week, unloading on Governor Cuomo. He's upset with how the governor handled negotiations over mayoral rule of the schools, rent regulations, and just about everything else. And he did not hold back.
I think it was a smokescreen. I think it was an effort to undermine the outcome for whatever internal machinations, whatever strategies the governor was playing out, rather than saying, look, I have some disagreements here or some things I'd like change, which would have been the productive thing to do. He publicly attacked the plan. He suggested it was not viable when everyone knew it was viable. And he actually helped to encourage opposition to it. Now, I find that to be a lack of leadership. I don't think the governor was sincere.
And de Blasio was just getting started.
What I found was he engaged in his own sense of strategies, his own political machinations. And what we've often seen is if someone disagrees with him openly, some kind of revenge or vendetta follows.
When and how de Blasio lashed out is getting almost as much attention as what he actually said. De Blasio gave that interview, then immediately jetted off for vacation. And the mayor's camp told the Times he decided to slam the governor because he, quote, had nothing left to lose. Those, again, the words of the mayor's own staff. Cuomo's office initially issued this slightly snarky statement. For those new to the process, it takes coalition building and compromise to get things done in government. We wish the mayor well on his vacation. But on camera, the very next day, the governor himself, he took the high road.
I've known Bill, the mayor, a long time. I consider him a friend. He says what he says, I say what I say, and I'll let him speak for himself.
So now we've got Democrats scrambling, frankly, to pick sides here. And I want to get to our panel. Richard Brodsky, former Democratic New York State Assemblyman, now a senior fellow at Demos and a professor at NYU. Dominic Carter, political journalist and author. And Andrew Whitman, our senior political correspondent. Well, we talked about how this was simmering behind the scenes, how they were trying to, negotiate, how they'd work it out. And then all of a sudden he does. Now, I want to get to the substance, but let's get the style stuff out of the way. I'm sorry. It didn't look good. It didn't feel right to me. He does this interview, heads off, and he leaves his staff to handle, the after effects.
Small
here.
potatoes. Look, first things first. This happens all the time. Pataki, Giuliani. Mayor, what was his name, the last guy? Bloomberg. And everybody. But that's number one. What was different here is that these guys were natural allies for years. And that, in fact, Cuomo's been hammering de Blasio and anybody else who got into his line of fire from the beginning. Andrew Cuomo doesn't want to be just the alpha dog. He wants to be the only dog. Bill de Blasio brings some muscle to the process. It got ugly not on the personality conflict, it got ugly on issues. Pre-K, tax policy, wage board, now mayoral control, 421A rent control. The governor hammered the mayor on issues where the governor was wrong and the mayor was right.
But Dom, did the mayor help himself? And I say this because at the end of the day, forget about Democrats that were caught in the middle on this. The progressives, the Vivaritos, for crying out loud, Letitia James, people who are not afraid to throw bombs here. Nobody leapt over to the mayor's side to say, I've got his back, even on, sure, the Working Families Party and the rest. But my point is, I didn't see a lot of people saying, I'm with you, Mayor.
Well, it's starting to happen. I think a lot of progressives in particular, folks on the left, are going to publicly side with this mayor. Governor Cuomo's got a problem. What we're seeing are the same, this is not new. This is not new at all. These are the same personality traits that almost ruined his career when he challenged Carl McCall. Mr. Brodsky's correct, and I know what I'm talking about on this. He wants to be the only top dog in the room, and he has a problem, whether you're the same party or not, sharing the stage with anybody else. How do you shut down a mayor's subway system and the mayor finds out 5 minutes in advance or 30 minutes in advance? Come on, Richard. So he's been picking a fight because he thought that de Blasio was not going to take it public. I think de Blasio is going to pay for it ultimately because Cuomo will never forget this.
And people have said that.
He waited too long.
Yeah,
if he was going to pick this fight, he should have picked it before the session ended, when he might have gotten something on mayoral control.
Well, and you're speaking my question because, Andrew, what's the strategy here? If he thought he was going to influence the end game, did he really think the governor was going to capitulate in the 11th hour and give him what he wanted? We all know the governor and the man he's dealing with here. He certainly knows. He's worked with him, God knows, for decades now. So I'm only telling you anecdotally what I get from people who don't follow it as close as us. They said that basically de Blasio put his thumb in his mouth here, said, I'm going to take my ball and go home, and he headed off to vacation. And he came across as just impertinent here, and wow.
You're asking two different questions here. First of all, I think that a lot of this is not the last fight, not the budget fight or the end of the session fight, but setting up for the next fight. And I think de Blasio is trying to pour some salt into the wounds from Governor Cuomo from his re-election campaign.
And you think it's a good strategy when he needs the state to go along with what he wants?
I think he's trying to remind the governor that there's a lot of pressure to his left that he hasn't responded to particularly well, especially on economic policies. And he's saying the next time this fight happens, you better respect the left wing of the party.
Bill de Blasio got Andrew Cuomo the Working Families Party endorsement over the opposition of a lot of people on the left. There was not only no thank you, there was political hostility from the get-go. That's what caused, I think, eventually the bursting of the bubble. In the end, de Blasio has decided, like a lot of people, that the only thing Andrew Cuomo listens to is strength.
Yes, and that's true.
It didn't seem that he lined up a coalition to get behind him when he did it. And I think you're giving him way too much credit.
No, it's coming now, Richard. The Times is doing a story for tomorrow. The coalition is building. What you're going to see, I really believe that Cuomo just cost himself a third term. Now, I know
it's way
I'm telling
premature
you,
for that.
Let's be honest.
I'm starting to sound like him.
But let's be honest. The governor, based on the definition of many that have to deal with him, has a very strong and tough
you
and
have to
ugly
consider
personality.
Everything you're saying is, I think, a known commodity. That's his MO. But let's also consider the source. It's not like Bill de Blasio has built up all this tremendous equity that they think he's the smartest guy in the world.
But these are Democrats that already hate the governor. They were just afraid of him.
He's bringing in disaffected people. Look, Bill de Blasio could actually be thinking about running against Andrew Cuomo in 4 years.
Good luck.
I have no information to
Okay, before I run out of time, I want to ask you about whether you do or not have information. Here's the cynical side of me. I'm hearing from a few folks that they wanted to wait until the budget was passed, but there could be some more stuff coming down from Bahara, okay? Do you think any of the motivations wasn't just outright anger as to getting shafted on budget priorities on the mayor, but that you're going to even have a further weakened governor here by some of the more news that'll come from the U.S. attorney, and now getting this in before that happens?
I have no idea what he knows or doesn't know. I do know that the conventional wisdom was he waited too long. That these are steps he should have taken 6 months ago, a year ago, and he might have done better on issues that matter to people, not just a fight between two competing alpha males.
I think what's really going on, who knows what the U.S. attorney is doing, and I don't think de Blasio has that information, nor especially not Cuomo. Richard, what I think is going on, this governor has been looking to pick a fight with this mayor from day one. And frankly, I'm not calling the governor a bully, but what happens when a bully picks on someone?
I think you just called him a bully.
Yeah, but notice I did it in a sleek way.
But here's my question, is de Blasio, does he really think that he's going to benefit as a direct result of this fight?
But sometimes, Andrew, you don't care. When you've been picked
I find that hard to believe that de Blasio just went off the handle. This was totally planned.
Andrew, the governor shut down his subway system.
No, I understand that.
If you believe that strength matters, you have to show strength. Sometimes showing strength.
And that's the only thing Cuomo
But here's the only thing I disagree with you guys on this table, which is you're right. At some point, you got to stand up to the bully. First off, he waited too long, okay? He let himself get his rear end kicked for the third straight time here before he finally stood up, and he didn't stand up to him. He stood up and he ran away on vacation. Now, you might say, oh, that's optics.
Well, what
I'm
does the
telling
vacation
you,
have to do with...
Because it made it sound like he did an interview, wasn't even around to answer the subsequent question that came down.
It's a holiday weekend. You know it's a desert for news anyway. And now you've got de Blasio and this fight that he's picked as the headline all through this.
Political forces. It's not clear where they're going to go, but he unleashed political forces. He doesn't have to be in the city for them to take effect and have an impact. Andrew Cuomo has a problem. He's been shrewd enough to deal with these in the past. Whether he's still that same guy, we'll see.
One more point on the timing. I mean, yeah, he went on vacation, and yeah, you said he got his butt kicked.
And that's part of every storyline that's come out.
For the third straight time, but you know, he can't seem to win on style no matter what he does. Part of that's his own fault. Part of that, I think, is a hypercritical media, of which we're included. But if he had picked this fight his first week in office or his first 6 months of office, you'd be saying that's bad form and he should be extending an olive branch and trying to work with the governor. There's no good time to do this.
We all knew that he had an ambitious agenda. He went to we, the media here, before, very clearly, okay, as to what he needed for the city. And he threw down the gauntlet just as much as the governor did. Let's not make Bill de Blasio here the innocent waif in the corner. He made very public his comments about the governor, not as strong as he did on the exit interview right before vacation. So he knew he picked the fight with the governor. My point is, if you're going to pick a fight, what do? You kill the king. He didn't do everything he could before the budget went down. He waited till afterwards.
But how do you,
I don't see that strength.
Okay, but how do you kill the king when the king is the governor of New York? And he has more power than you do.
If you're going to do it, Dom, don't wait until Albany goes home.
Look, there are plenty of criticisms that you can make about the timing, the language, the post-event. In fact, he did something that is a choice a leader makes. He made a decision to go to the mattresses because in the end, nothing else was working. Now that will either work or it won't work.
So Richard, he comes back from vacation somewhere in the Southwest, okay? What's the next play here? Does the governor decide to capitulate in some way to the left, not through the mayor, or does the mayor still mea culpa?
It's in Andrew Cuomo's hands. He can move to a peace agenda, or he can do as he's done with almost everybody else. Tom DiNapoli, Eric Schneiderman, Merrill Tisch, Carl Hayden, you name it, he slapped them down. Now he's finally facing somebody saying, take your best shot, let's see what we can get done.
Publicly, Richard, the governor.
That's a big deal.
Publicly, he's going to pursue a peace agenda. Privately, he's going to do everything. Somebody's got to go now, de Blasio or Cuomo. Privately, and I've known this governor for 30 years, he is going to do everything. It's going to cost the city of New York now. Because it's not about the city, it's about his personal enemy that he's going to take on one-on-one.
And not to let facts in, but what de Blasio actually said about the governor, beyond the pettiness that he alleged of the governor and all the rest of it, he said the governor was taking actions to directly harm the city of New York and its residents. That's not just a little, softball over the thing. He's saying the governor is directly trying to screw 8 million people in New York City. To pretend that Cuomo is going to be like, oh, he's just talking.
What he said was that what the governor is doing matters in the lives of citizens, not just in my life, not just in the life of the mayor. That's a smart, shrewd way to pose it. Andrew Cuomo has a problem.
Agreed.
This is either a brush fire or it's a wildfire.
I agree, but I think de Blasio's got a problem too. He's picked a fight with a guy who likes to fight, and I'm not sure de Blasio does. But as we say, film at 11, this will be fascinating how this thing all plays out. Richard, as always, thank you. Now, we want you to get involved in this conversation. Head over to Facebook and Twitter and answer today's question. Who's acting worse here, the governor or the mayor? Now, when we come back, the NYPD, as you know, on high alert this holiday weekend. The FBI and Homeland Security issued warnings saying July 4th makes a good target for terrorists. And up next, New York City's former top cop, Bernie Kerik, on that and a whole lot more. Join us. We'll be right back.